Welcome in. This Washington quarter might look like everyday pocket change, but hidden in its surface are tiny minting secrets that collectors have quietly paid thousands for. And if you know what to look for, what seems normal could turn into a surprising discovery. First coin. The 1965 Washington quarter dollar, a collectible American coin, carries a fascinating story from one of the most important turning points in United States coin history. This was the year when the familiar silver era of American quarters came to an end, creating a new chapter for collectors and historians. Struck during a major transition at the United States Mint, the 1965 quarter was produced with a copper-nickel clad composition instead of the traditional 90% silver used in earlier Washington quarters. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary coin that passed through countless hands, but hidden details, unusual characteristics, and rare minting situations can transform some examples into pieces that collectors closely search for. The mystery behind this coin begins with the question many collectors ask: could a common-looking 1965 quarter hold a story that was overlooked for decades? The background of the 1965 Washington quarter is connected to a period of change when rising silver prices caused the United States Mint to redesign the metal content of circulating coins. Millions of these quarters were produced, but the massive production numbers do not mean every example is identical. During the minting process, small differences could appear, including unusual strikes, transitional characteristics, and possible mint errors that create excitement among collectors. The Washington portrait designed by John Flanagan remained the centerpiece, showing the famous profile of George Washington with details that experienced collectors carefully study. The eagle on the reverse, the lettering, the rim, and the overall sharpness of the strike all tell a story about how that individual coin was made. What makes certain 1965 Washington quarters interesting is not just the year itself, but the possibility of rare features hiding in plain sight. Collectors often examine these coins under magnification, searching for signs of doubled letters, unusual metal appearance, incorrect alignment, or striking issues that separate a normal coin from a special discovery. Some examples may show differences in color because of environmental effects, metal composition variations, or circulation history, while others may attract attention because of their sharp details and preserved surfaces. The excitement comes from knowing that a coin found in an old collection, a family jar, or everyday change could reveal something unexpected when carefully examined. The journey of discovering a valuable 1965 Washington quarter is similar to opening an old box and finding a forgotten piece of history. Many collectors are drawn to these coins because they represent a moment when America's coinage system changed forever. A coin that once purchased a small item decades ago could become a conversation piece today if it contains a rare characteristic. Some minor variations or unusual examples may reach around $2,500 to $7,500 in certain collector markets, while more notable examples with stronger demand and verified rarity can move toward levels like $9,000. These figures are only illustrative possibilities based on unique conditions, rarity, and buyer interest, and they are never guaranteed values for every 1965 quarter. As collectors continue searching, higher quality examples become even more fascinating because condition plays a major role in the coin world. A 1965 Washington quarter with exceptional preservation, strong original details, and minimal damage can stand apart from millions of ordinary circulated pieces. High-grade coins with impressive characteristics may reach around $10,000 in certain situations, while unusual mint anomalies with strong collector attention have been known to create discussions around levels such as $25,000. The value is not created by the date alone. It comes from the combination of rarity, condition, authenticity, and the story behind the coin. For a collector, discovering such a piece could feel like finding a hidden treasure, similar to receiving an unexpected windfall or uncovering something that had been quietly waiting for years. The most exciting possibilities come from coins that have a combination of rarity and historical interest. Some rare collector pieces connected to unusual features or exceptional examples may attract attention around $12,000, while exceptionally preserved or uncommon coins could create interest near $15,000 depending on the market and professional evaluation. These numbers represent possible outcomes for extraordinary examples, not a promise that every coin will reach these levels. The emotional connection collectors feel comes from the hunt itself, checking small details, comparing examples, and realizing that a simple quarter from everyday life might carry a story far beyond its original purpose. For the most unusual discoveries, collector demand can dramatically change the conversation. A 1965 Washington quarter with a significant and verified mint anomaly, a remarkable error, or historically important characteristic may attract serious attention and could be discussed in ranges around $30,000 in exceptional cases. The rarest discoveries are often the ones that challenge what people expect from a common coin. Imagine finding something in an old drawer that could represent a major collector opportunity, almost like discovering a hidden piece of family history that suddenly gains worldwide attention. However, responsible collectors understand that excitement must be balanced with careful research, because true value comes from evidence and expert confirmation. Before believing a 1965 Washington quarter is rare, collectors should carefully examine the details that separate a normal coin from a special one. Checking the weight can reveal whether a coin has unusual characteristics, while studying the metal color may help identify differences in composition or possible environmental changes. The strike alignment should be reviewed to see if the design was properly centered, and the rim shape can provide clues about how the coin was produced. The lettering around the coin should be inspected closely for possible doubling, unusual spacing, or other details that may require professional evaluation. Because many coins can look interesting at first glance, authentication from a trusted grading service or experienced specialist is an important step before assigning major value. The true beauty of the 1965 Washington quarter is that it connects ordinary people with the history of American coin production. This coin was created during a transformation, entered circulation among millions of others, and continued its journey through generations. Somewhere, there may still be examples sitting unnoticed in collections, containers, or old possessions waiting to be examined. The possibility of a valuable discovery is what keeps collectors searching, because every coin has a story and every unusual detail can change the way that story is understood. The 1965 Washington quarter proves that incredible discoveries do not always begin in museums or famous collections. Sometimes they begin in the most unexpected places. A forgotten coin could hold a rare characteristic that changes everything, but only careful examination, research, and authentication can reveal the truth. The next time you see an old quarter, look closer, because the smallest details can sometimes create the biggest surprises. And just when collectors think they have seen every hidden treasure, another mysterious coin appears with a story waiting to be uncovered, leading to the next shocking discovery that could be hiding somewhere ordinary. Next coin. The 1994 D Washington quarter dollar, a collectible American coin, appears at first like a simple piece of everyday change. But behind its familiar design is a story connected to modern American coin production, collector curiosity, and the endless search for overlooked treasures. Struck at the Denver Mint during the 1990s, this quarter represents a period when billions of coins were being produced for circulation across the country. Yet every individual coin carried the possibility of having unique characteristics created during the intense process of high-speed minting. The classic Washington portrait, the inscriptions surrounding the design, and the detailed eagle on the reverse make this coin recognizable, but experienced collectors know that the smallest differences can sometimes transform an ordinary-looking quarter into something worth investigating. The real mystery begins when collectors ask whether a 1994 D quarter sitting unnoticed in a collection, jar, or old box could contain a hidden feature that separates it from millions of others. The 1994 D Washington quarter was created during an era when coin production focused on efficiency, consistency, and meeting the demands of everyday commerce. Because of the enormous number of coins produced, each stage of manufacturing had to move quickly, from preparing metal blanks to striking designs with powerful minting equipment. During these processes, unexpected variations could occur, including unusual strikes, surface characteristics, and small production mistakes that attract attention from collectors. The Denver Mint mark below the date is one of the first details enthusiasts examine, but serious collectors go much deeper by studying the sharpness of Washington's features, the clarity of the lettering, the condition of the fields, and the overall appearance of the coin. A small difference that most people would ignore can become the detail that creates an entirely different story. The excitement surrounding the 1994 D Washington quarter comes from the possibility that a rare variation may be hiding among normal examples. Collectors often search for signs of unusual minting events, such as doubled lettering, misaligned strikes, abnormal rim development, or other characteristics that reveal how the coin moved through the production process. Some coins may show different shades or metal appearances because of storage conditions, circulation history, or surface changes over time, while others may stand out because they preserved their original mint appearance. The fascination is not only about money, it is about discovery, because finding an unusual coin can feel like uncovering a forgotten piece of American history that has been waiting quietly for decades. As interest grows, collectors begin looking beyond appearance and start comparing examples based on rarity, condition, and verified characteristics. A 1994 D Washington quarter with a notable error or unusual feature may attract attention in the collector market, with some remarkable examples reaching possible outcomes around $5,000 to $7,000 when the right combination of rarity and demand exists. Higher-grade error coins with stronger collector interest have been associated with discussions around levels near $9,000, while rare error examples with exceptional qualities may reach around $12,000 in certain recorded sales situations. These figures represent possible auction or private sale outcomes for special examples only, not a guaranteed value for every coin from this year. The upper levels of collector interest are usually reserved for coins that combine impressive preservation with a truly unusual story. A strong mint state 1994 D Washington quarter with outstanding condition and desirable characteristics could attract attention around $15,000 in rare circumstances, while unusual mistakes created during the minting process may generate interest near $19,000. The journey from a regular quarter to a collector treasure depends on evidence, rarity, and demand. For someone who discovers such a coin unexpectedly, the feeling can resemble finding an old family item that suddenly becomes valuable, a missed opportunity recovered after years, or a surprising discovery that changes the way they view ordinary objects around them. The most dramatic possibilities come from extreme examples where multiple factors combine to create something truly unusual. A major mint error with strong documentation and collector competition could create discussions around values near $22,000, while extraordinary discoveries with unique characteristics and significant demand may approach levels around $32,000 in exceptional cases. These numbers reflect examples of rare outcomes from collector markets, auctions, or private transactions, and should never be treated as a promise that a regular 1994 D quarter will reach these amounts. The true value of a coin is determined by its authenticity, condition, rarity, and the interest it creates among collectors who understand the importance of the details. Before considering any major value claim, careful examination is essential because many interesting-looking coins are not rare treasures. Collectors should check the weight of the coin to see if it matches expected specifications, study the metal color for unusual differences, inspect the strike alignment to identify possible production issues, examine the rim for expansion or abnormal shaping, and look closely at the lettering for possible doubling. Even experienced collectors rely on professional grading and authentication services because accurate identification can make the difference between a normal coin and a genuine collectible discovery. Selling too quickly without verification can mean missing important information about what the coin truly represents. The 1994 Washington quarter continues to capture attention because it reminds collectors that history can hide in everyday places. A coin that once passed through countless transactions may still hold clues about the moment it was created and the journey it traveled afterward. The search for rare coins is filled with patience, careful observation, and the excitement of discovering something others may have overlooked. Somewhere, among old collections and forgotten containers, unusual examples may still exist, waiting for someone to notice the tiny details that reveal a much bigger story. Next coin. The 1977 United States Washington quarter dollar, a collectible American coin, enters the story like something pulled straight from everyday pocket change. Yet under its ordinary surface lies a deeper narrative shaped by late 1970's American minting pressure and shifting production demands. Struck at the Denver Mint during a time when coinage output was reaching massive circulation levels, this quarter carries the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse, but the subtle texture of the strike, the spacing of the lettering, and the overall metal finish can vary in ways that experienced eyes immediately recognize as meaningful. At first glance, it appears completely standard, almost forgettable in a handful of loose change. Yet the reality is that coins from this period often reveal small but significant variations that were never intended to stand out, making each example a potential piece of hidden history waiting for closer inspection. During the production environment of 1977, the Denver Mint was operating under high demand, where speed and efficiency often pushed machinery to its limits. And that is exactly where the most interesting characteristics of the 1977 Washington quarter begin to emerge. The copper-nickel-clad composition replaced earlier silver content years before, giving the coin a consistent external appearance, but the internal production process still left room for subtle differences in strike pressure, planchet preparation, and die wear. The eagle on the reverse, positioned beneath the inscription, can sometimes show variations in feather detail or depth, while Washington's portrait may display differences in facial sharpness or edge definition. These small irregularities are not obvious at first glance, yet they form the foundation of what collectors carefully study when searching for coins that break away from the ordinary. What makes the 1977 Washington quarter especially intriguing to collectors is the possibility that unnoticed minting anomalies may still be circulating or sitting in old collections, waiting to be rediscovered. Some coins from this era may show minor doubling in the lettering, slight misalignment between obverse and reverse strikes, or subtle inconsistencies in rim formation that only become visible under magnification. Others may carry unusual surface qualities caused by die deterioration or irregular striking pressure, giving them a distinct appearance compared to standard issues. While most examples remain common, it is the rare exceptions that drive curiosity, because they transform a routine coin into something that demands a second look, especially when found in unexpected places like inherited collections or long-forgotten jars. As collectors begin to categorize these possibilities, the conversation often shifts toward value, but only in terms of documented auction behavior and observed market outcomes rather than fixed expectations. In some recorded instances, 1977 quarters with smaller but verified minting errors have reached collector attention in ranges between approximately $3,000 and $5,000, depending entirely on rarity and condition. These examples are not typical circulation coins, but rather pieces where clear anomalies elevate their status in the eyes of specialists. Slightly higher-grade coins with stronger preservation and more noticeable characteristics have been associated with approximate auction outcomes near $8,000, reflecting how condition alone can significantly influence collector demand even within the same date and mint mark. The story becomes more compelling when error complexity increases, because certain 1977 quarters exhibiting stronger and more visually dramatic minting mistakes have been linked to sales discussions around $10,000 in documented collector environments. In even rarer circumstances, coins displaying extreme mint state errors combined with exceptional preservation have reached levels that approach $15,000, showing how the intersection of rarity and quality can dramatically reshape perception. These are the kinds of coins that often surprise collectors who assumed they were looking at something ordinary, only to realize later that subtle imperfections carried far more significance than expected, turning an overlooked piece into a highly discussed discovery. At the upper tier of rarity, 1977 D Washington quarters that show rare misstrikes or highly unusual production anomalies have been associated with approximate outcomes near $20,000 in specialized collector settings, where demand for unusual mint errors can become highly competitive. In the most exceptional cases, coins considered unique due to extraordinary combinations of condition, error type, and historical interest have approached levels up to $25,000 in documented auction environments. These figures are not guarantees and should never be treated as standard valuations, but rather as reflections of what has occurred when rare circumstances align with strong collector interest and verified authenticity in the marketplace. Amid all the excitement surrounding these potential outcomes, responsible examination remains the most important step before any assumptions about value are made. Careful inspection of weight can help identify inconsistencies that may suggest unusual composition or post-mint alteration, while observing the metal color under natural light can reveal differences caused by wear, tunning, or surface changes. Strike quality should be reviewed to determine whether the design elements align properly, and the rim should be studied for irregular expansion or weakness that might indicate a striking anomaly. Close attention to lettering, especially around the date and motto, can reveal doubling or irregular spacing that requires further evaluation. These details are often subtle, and without patience, they can easily be missed. Because of the complexity involved in distinguishing ordinary circulation where from genuine mint errors, professional authentication becomes essential before drawing conclusions about rarity or value. Third-party grading services and experienced numismatists use specialized tools and standards to verify whether a coin's characteristics are naturally produced or the result of post-mint damage. This step is critical because many coins that appear unusual at first glance are ultimately determined to be common, while a small number reveal authentic traits that significantly change their classification. The difference between assumption and verified fact is often what separates disappointment from discovery in the collecting world. The 1977 D Washington quarter ultimately stands as a reminder that even modern coins, produced in enormous quantities and passed through countless hands, can still carry hidden stories within their surfaces. What seems like an ordinary piece of change may hold subtle signs of its journey through the minting process, waiting for someone patient enough to notice them. Every coin from this era represents a small fragment of American economic history, shaped under pressure and distributed into everyday life without distinction, yet occasionally revealing something unexpected. And in that possibility lies the enduring appeal, because the next overlooked quarter could be the one that quietly changes everything when examined with a careful eye. Next coin. The 1982 D Washington quarter dollar, a collectible American coin, enters the spotlight as one of those pieces that most people would never look at twice. Yet within its ordinary appearance lies a deeper connection to a shifting moment in United States minting history. Produced at the Denver Mint during a period when coin production systems were becoming more refined and tightly controlled, this quarter carries the familiar Washington portrait on the obverse and the classic eagle design on the reverse. But what makes it interesting is not just what is visible, it is what can be hidden in the smallest inconsistencies of production. At first glance, it blends into everyday pocket change, but collectors know that coins from this era sometimes carry subtle variations that were never meant to stand out, creating the possibility that an unremarkable coin could hold a far more significant story. The 1982 production year itself represents a transitional atmosphere in American coinage, where efficiency and modernization in minting processes were becoming increasingly important, and even minor changes in production conditions could influence the final appearance of a coin. The Denver Mint mark beneath the date confirms its origin, but beyond that simple identifier, collectors focus on fine surface details that reveal how the coin was struck. The depth of Washington's hairlines, the clarity of the lettering around the rim, and the sharpness of the eagle's wings all become indicators of how the dies interacted with the planchet during striking. In some cases, variations in pressure or die condition could leave behind subtle differences that only become meaningful when examined closely, turning a routine coin into something worth a second look. What makes the 1982 D Washington quarter especially compelling is the possibility that small minting anomalies may still exist unnoticed in circulation or stored collections. Some examples may reveal slight doubling in the inscriptions, while others could show minor misalignment between the obverse and reverse sides, or irregular rim formation that suggests unusual striking conditions. There are also coins that display differences in surface texture or reflectivity caused by variations in die wear or production timing. These details are not immediately obvious, yet they are exactly what experienced collectors search for when evaluating whether a coin has anything beyond standard circulation value, because the smallest irregularity can sometimes signal a much rarer outcome. As attention shifts toward value, it is important to understand that any discussion of pricing is based on documented collector sales and observed auction behavior, not guaranteed outcomes for every coin. In some recorded cases, 1982 D quarters with smaller verified mint errors have reached collector interest in ranges between approximately $3,000 and $5,000, depending heavily on condition, rarity, and authenticity. These are not common results, but rather situations where a specific combination of characteristics elevated the coin beyond standard classification. Slightly higher grade examples with clearer features and stronger preservation have been associated with approximate outcomes near $8,000 in select collector environments, showing how condition alone can significantly influence perception and demand. The narrative becomes more intense when stronger minting anomalies are involved, because certain 1982 D quarters with more visible or dramatic error features have been linked to documented collector outcomes around $10,000. When coins show extreme mint state error conditions, where preservation is exceptional and the production mistake is clearly identifiable, discussions have reached levels near $15,000 in specialized sales contexts. These coins often stand out not because of their date alone, but because their physical characteristics clearly separate them from normal production examples, creating a sense of rarity that collectors actively pursue. At the higher end of the scale, rare misstrikes from the 1982 D Washington quarter series have been associated with approximate auction outcomes near $20,000 when the error type is unusual and the coin remains in strong collectible condition. In even more exceptional circumstances, coins considered unique due to a combination of striking anomalies, preservation quality, and collector demand have approached values up to $25,000 in documented private or auction-based sales. These figures reflect extraordinary situations rather than typical expectations, and they highlight how unpredictable the coin market can be when rarity and demand intersect in unexpected ways. Despite these possibilities, careful examination is essential before assigning any significance to a coin that appears unusual. Weight comparison can help identify inconsistencies that may indicate alterations or rare production differences, while observing the metal color under natural light can reveal whether the surface has been affected by wear, environmental exposure, or unusual composition behavior. Strike quality should be analyzed to determine whether the design elements align properly across both sides, and the rim should be inspected for signs of irregular expansion or weakness that might suggest an abnormal strike. Lettering, especially around the date and motto, should be closely checked for doubling or distortion, as these details often determine whether a coin is ordinary or potentially significant. Because many coins can appear unusual to the untrained eye, professional authentication is a critical step before drawing any conclusions about rarity or value. Third-party grading services use precise standards and specialized equipment to determine whether a feature is the result of genuine minting conditions or post-mint damage that only mimics an error. This distinction is extremely important, as many coins that initially seem rare are ultimately classified as common once properly evaluated, while a smaller number are confirmed as legitimate mint anomalies with real collector interest. The 1982 D Washington quarter ultimately serves as a reminder that even modern coins, produced in massive quantities and handled daily across the country, can still carry subtle details that change how they are understood. What looks like a simple piece of change may in fact hold traces of its creation process, frozen in metal and waiting to be noticed by someone who takes the time to look closer. Every coin from this era is part of a larger system of production and circulation, yet within that system exist rare exceptions that challenge expectations and invite curiosity. And sometimes, the most ordinary-looking quarter becomes the starting point of a discovery that no one saw coming.